Alright everyone, we start off today with yet another Biden gaffe or cognitive moment or whatever it happens to be. At this point they tend to run together so that there's not enough time in the news cycle to absorb one mistake or one gaffe or one piece of misinformation from his admin and the next one. It's becoming a little bit confusing and chaotic, I think, in DC right now. That generally comes with the territory when the steward that's in office is 80 years old and clearly has dementia. This is actually, though, a fairly mild gaffe, all things considered. Joe Biden was speaking the other day and made the claim that his son, no, not the one that smokes crack and hires hookers and probably cheated on his taxes and definitely helped his dad to commit treason. No, it was the other one, the son, the one that wasn't the turd baby, Beau Biden. Biden claimed that his son had died in Iraq. No, he served his country, died in Iraq. But that's not true. He did not die in Iraq. He was served in Iraq. He died of a brain tumor in 2005. Now, Joe Biden does have one leg to stand on here, which is that one thing the U.S. military was doing profusely in Iraq was using depleted uranium. I think that they still use it for various purposes. It's a very tough metal and has various applications. Exposure to depleted uranium has been linked to difficulties to cancer. It's been kind of linked to birth defects, although, consanguineous marriage in that particular region really does compensate for that alone. So I am skeptical of the claim that because one depleted uranium shred happened to lay in the sand somewhere that everyone local all of a sudden started being born with tentacles coming out of their face. But he potentially was exposed to depleted uranium. So by a stretch, and this isn't what Biden meant, which is why it's still a gaffe, by a stretch he kind of sort of at least died because of the war in Iraq that he served in. So this is like a 3 out of 10 on the Biden gaffe scale, because he can always, with plausible deniability, he can always say, well, what I really meant was that he died because he was in Iraq. He died as the result of being part of that combat experience because, he was around this depleted uranium a couple of times, and he ingested some of it, and it gave him a brain tumor, and he croaked. That's probably what Biden will do in the next 24 hours, or rather the press corps. The press corps will harass him about this, and they'll say to Karine Jean-Pierre there, well, Beau Biden, did he die in Iraq or didn't he? Well, he died as the result of having been in Iraq. The reason, though, why Biden didn't make that differentiation properly is not due to a stutter or anything like that. It's due to dementia. He genuinely probably doesn't even know how Beau Biden died at this point. It wasn't that many days ago that he forgot that the person that he was speaking about had already died and was scanning the crowd for her. Jacobowski there, the representative, member of House of Representatives. That was a way bigger gaffe, by the way, than this. It's still trending, though. One thing that I have seen is that more and more people, and it's not just conservatives at this point, are sort of getting hep to the idea that Joe Biden is not mentally all there, and so they're discussing his cognitive problems more. In the beginning, you were called a conspiracy theorist if you suggested that there was any problem there. They no longer really use that defense now, do they? They say, well, he's an old man, of course, his mental cognitive functions are slowing down. It's not really dementia, though, say people who clearly have never interacted with someone with early-stage Alzheimer's. As someone who has, I can say that there is a remarkable similarity there. The problem for the United States is not any single incident of cognitive decline, a sundowner moment. The problem is that we can't reasonably expect the chief executive to even necessarily finish out his entire term. And there won't be a second term. Just to be clear, it's becoming more and more evident that Joe Biden is not going to be permitted to run in 2024. If he does, it's going to lead to a goddamn freak show and he'll lose. And I think that more and more Democrats realize this and are planning for the possible contingency where they can't get him to step aside. I think they're prepping to support somebody else. They'll throw Biden under the bus if they have to, especially if the Republicans have a neocon candidate, like a Romney. They won't bother. They'll say, okay, Joe, yeah, we've got your back. Because it'll be the new boss, same as the old boss, just minus the dementia. They're the same basic policies. But if Trump or DeSantis or Rand Paul or something actually is the Republican candidate, look for them to pull out all the stops to try to stop Joe Biden from running. And Joe Biden claiming his son died in Iraq. Well, he didn't die in Iraq. He died in the United States because potentially of exposure to depleted uranium. We're not even 100% sure that's the case. We're not actually. So what exactly? Joe Biden has said this multiple times, by the way. This isn't the first time that he's made this statement. If you want a real Joe Biden lie, look at his student records. Look at his constant claims about being top of his class or something in college, and he was actually in the bottom quarter and stuff like that. Didn't he plagiarize part of his thesis as well, if I remember correctly? Or am I thinking of a different Democrat? A lot of them seem to do this, by the way, when they go to Ivy League schools. Seems to be habitual, and nobody checks it. It's almost like the professor got paid a huge boatload of money by daddy or mama or something like that beforehand. I'll give it a 3 out of 10 on the shitter scale, which is what we should probably start using, the Biden gaffe scale. It goes from 1 to 10. This isn't even a floozy. This is just basic bitch mode. We've gotten to the point where the steward of the United States, we expect him to say and do weird shit. We expect days like this, and they're no longer infrequent. When his presidency first began, it was like a monthly thing, or every other month. By the end of the first year, it was every month to every few weeks. Now it seems to be every 3 or 4 days. This is a fairly rapid advancement of his incapabilities, of his inability to process thoughts, his inability to recall even basic things. Generally, when you're looking at an Alzheimer's timeline, you can take a pretty good reading of that first year or two and see sort of where they started off and where they ended up. And if that advancement of the cognitive decline is this sheer, you're looking at a situation where you can reasonably expect, and this is the scary part, where if Joe Biden is still in office into the second half of his first term, which is the only one he'll get, at some point in that subsequent 2-year period, he'll move from early stage to mid-stage Alzheimer's. It will become glaringly obvious to the entire population that he's incapable of carrying out the duties of office. The Democrats, which I warned them would likely be the case, have to deal with either hiding the President of the United States from the public as much as possible, cover it up, have other people running things, which is only quasi-constitutional, I'm sure, in the ways that they would do it, by the way, or they invoke the 25th and remove his ass from office. They'll be removing, and then all hell breaks loose. Democrats that still like the dude will rampage against the party. They're not looking forward to that. Kamala ends up in charge. Nobody's going to like that. A first female president of color happens not to have actually been elected at all. That'll go over well, and she'll be a great incumbent for 2024. The Democrats have no idea what they're doing. They bought a pig in a poke because Orange Man bad. They helped jury rig him into his stewardship, and now they're paying the price for it. Now we have to deal with this every other day. And unlike with Trump's mean tweets, it's not at this point, it's no longer funny. It's not funny to see him dodder around on stage clearly confused. It's almost a form of elder abuse at some point. That's about all. Peace out.